After a morning with several large panel discussions about how to transfer your skills from your home country to the United States, a workforce conference in Alexandria, Virginia, broke out into several small panel discussions focused on specific industries.
These companies are owned by families, they're owned by individuals.
There were small panel discussions on health and health-allied services, information technology, education teaching, international development, government and nonprofit, business and finance, accounting, administration, and transportation, construction, and the trades.
And a job overseas, Spanish in particular. For example, Fluor Corporation, F-L-U-O-R, if you've ever heard of them, they're the ones building the hot lanes in Virginia. They do a lot of work in South America. We've had guys from our union be recruited to be safety inspectors in Chile and Argentina, simply on the basis that they're fluent in English and Spanish.
The partners, they have a now project in Dubai, in Middle East, so if you speak Arabic, you will be the...
Like all the panels, the Business and Finance, Accounting, Administration panel offered specific advice about looking for jobs.
Instead of just calling someone, we'll send an email. And even if there's no email address available, a lot of individuals have attended school, they've taken course. We have new grads who actually come over from different countries. They're here, they're seeking status, they're looking to go OPT, and they will get sponsored through the university. And you can use professors. Anyone who can say that they can speak to you as an individual and your overall work performance, if you participated in an internship, they will suffice. And I would like to think that everyone who you call for a reference is going to say good things about you. 99% of the times that's true, but the one thing I would caution you as well about is if you list someone as a professional reference, please make sure that that person knows that you were using them as a reference, because the worst thing that can happen is that you use someone as a reference and they can't even remember who you are. You work for this company? When did you work for this? What did you do? That's not a good thing. So always verify with your references that they know who you are.
One more thing to that, and that's very true. And don't lie about your bosses. So
there are public-private partnerships, what are called PPP, which are focused more on trade and development. They work under or through private companies, mostly trade-related, and different from the typical relief or NGO work where you have to go into a place and build something and give that money or funding to an area. It's rather companies are setting aside some money to develop a market. Some of it's selfish, some of it for their own. I know.
The education teaching panel had Dr. Beth Offenbacher from Virginia Tech, Dr. Susanna McFalomi from Forum Intensive English Center, Umara Akhtari from George Mason University, and Dr. Kimberly Ogden from Educate
Virginia,
VA.
You are only required to have a bachelor's degree plus a teaching license in order to teach at middle school or high school level.
The industry-specific panel discussions focused on tips to job seekers, helping them understand how to transfer their credentials in the same industry but a new country, training that might be available, and helping them understand what can be a confusing process for finding a new job.
That's fine. You would take an exam that would qualify you as a content expert, and that would be your entrance. So the bachelor's degree nor your work experience have to directly relate to what it is you would be teaching in a middle school or a high school.
I'll add to that. So Accenture will pay for lifelong learning, but you've got to get in the door, and everybody else is trying to get in the door. So if you don't have something...
The information technology panel had Molly Bosch from Accenture, Prem Jadwani from Intellectual Point, Ed Lavala from Eagle Tech, Michael Stowe from Inova Translational Medicine Institute.
So there is a lot of ways to be able to do that. There is clearly VOR funding that if you are eligible, you get that money that is set aside. There are different buckets of money, right? That we worked under with Skill Source Group under J4 Vets program, which ended last year, but that was for veterans who are coming in. There is NY program that we are working on. There is on-the-job training through grants. Actually, there are grants that come in for people who want to take certifications and take trainings and we learn on the job. Actually, we are using that grant money now to get some of the people who are actually working for us. Not only they get trained, but they get to learn the healthcare skills. If you're working for some company, then clearly one of the things you need to articulate is if it's Accenture or something, they already have a set money aside. Like Booz gives you $5,000 every year. You can go take certifications. But
we give more.
Yes. So, no, but one thing I'll tell you.
Stop mentioning booze.
One of the things that I trained one of my students is like I talk to my management, but they don't want to fund it because they feel like if I want to take some certs. But I said, how about you articulate like, look, if you get higher certification, they can put you at a higher billing rate. So it is actually good for them, and he went and did that, and that company said, sure, we'll actually help you get CISSP. And sure enough, he got CISSP and his billing rate went up. So not only he benefited, the company benefited, and now they can show that they have highly qualified credentialed people, right? So it is a win-win situation. And remember, you are living in an area which is not a public sector. Do you understand there is a regulation called DOD 8570.1, if you want to write it down, 8570.1, or the new number is called 8140. You know what that is? If you Google it online, you will see an entire chart from the DOD which shows the baseline certifications that are required. It is not option, it's not a luxury, it is required to keep your job. If you don't have it, you are out. It is that critical. If you don't have Security Plus, you can't even touch the computer. It is coming down to that. So I get people who are saying money is not a problem. My contractor is willing to pay for it. Government agencies are willing to pay for it. They have funds set aside. But I need to get this. If I don't get this, I lose my job. So don't worry about the funding source. You will find a lot of clients because the employers are going to benefit. You are going to benefit. Even if you have to do it from your pocket, what I tell people is we do a payment plan, no interest payment plan. You can start with very small amount and spread the payment over 3 months, 5 months. And sure enough, you get a job in 3 months. You don't even have to wait 5 months. You can pay it off. So come see me if you are stuck with the funding issue. We can give you a lot of ideas.
And he said, well, I got A+ certification by myself. I have the feeling that I can invest in this person for more expensive certification, because if he could do A+, which is a very basic one, on his own, I mean, if I pay training for that person, it's going to be more successful. So if you show that you're willing to study on your own terms and pass the test on any type of certification, it could be A+, Security Plus, I mean, employers will see, well, this person is worth investing in more training. Because if you can do it by yourself, I mean, imagine what you can do if you were trained. Well, I have a story about exactly what you're saying. We were looking for engineers to place phones in a place, and we put ads in LinkedIn and jobs and in Craigslist and all these places. And we got a lot of people coming in, but there was this guy from Ethiopia. And then in his resume, he has his experience. He was working as a cashier on ABC liquor stores. So then I see that he was working in one of the telecommunication companies in Ethiopia. So, I mean, we being a company that is being created by immigrants, I pretty much researched the company in Ethiopia, and I thought it was kind of like Verizon here. And he's working as a cashier. So I actually called him up and I talked to him, more about his experience. He actually was a Cisco certified engineer, and he had a little bit of trouble with the English, but the job that I wanted to do, which was placing phones, did not require to be very proficient in English. But then he ended up being one of my highest skilled engineers. And then I asked him, what is your wife doing? And she's working in Panera Bread. And what job she did in Ethiopia? Well, she's an Oracle database administrator. So, I mean, we were able to help her to also have a job. I mean, I would put that you're working as a cashier, but please highlight in bold the companies that you work in your own countries that are related to the job that you're looking for. And if you can find a company here that matches the other company. Because this company, it is like Verizon here, so it is important because, I mean, you can actually relate. Or if you're working for a company, you work for a company like Accenture in your country, and then you can say, well, this company is like Accenture here in the US, then it helps us to know what is your background in your home country.
I think that's important. I also want to know what you're doing with that role. So if you are a cashier, you are responsible for financial management, not classic financial management, but you have been empowered with a role that is important for the cash flow of the company. You are overseeing customer relations. You are expediting payment because you understand how to efficiently work with customers. You are proactively recommending how to improve the store, whether or not that's from a process or a marketing or a customer engagement perspective. What are you doing to leverage that, and how are you reflecting that in language that I understand? Because I'm not looking for a cashier. I'm looking for an executive who can deal with customers, who can solve problems, who can be a leader. If you can represent that, then I start to get it.
If I can jump on that, I would say the problem that I see in most resumes, regardless of whether you're a foreign national or you're a U.S. citizen, is tying experience, like your previous experience, in your resume. So I will see a lot of things like, I helped improve database functions. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? You know, I can improve database functions by not, putting in a query. That's improving. So you got to help me understand. And so a lot of the times I'll often reply back to a recruiter or to a direct candidate and said, look, your resume, I have to imagine that these 3 bullet points over the last 6 years is not all that you did. And so if you can at least, even with keywords of just saying, I used a Oracle database, I mean, that would be at least another step forward. But talking about how your skills and what are the things that you actually did day to day, I know that can be really hard to write, because I've seen a lot of resumes, and even in my own resume, I found it really hard to write, because in your mind, you're like, oh, I know exactly what I did. But you're giving that resume to somebody that doesn't know you and is trying to evaluate whether you're better than somebody else's resume in the stack. And I can tell you, I've come to a point where I've just said, where it's that 20 seconds and not even that. When I look at the resume, I'm like, okay, this person worked here for 6 years, but they only wrote 3 things. I'm not going to give that resume a lot of time. I'm like, well, they didn't spend the time to write anything.
And if that is you, we would love for you to come to the Skills Source Center and work with us so that we can assist you in preparing your resume with a better presentation of the word, because that's
yes.
Keep that in mind going forward.
Yeah, if I can just add quickly. So remember earlier I was saying, when the employers are looking for it, they are not looking for just technical experts. Yes, they want technical IT experts, but it's the total package. So if you worked as a cashier, I even had a student who was doing event planning, and he became a very good project manager. Right? I mean, he didn't even imagine that he could use that. I said, no, you need to put all this, and he took a CAPM course because he didn't have a formal PMP experience. So he went with CAPM, Certified Associate Project Manager, and he's working very successfully in a project management with 6-figure salary, including all the things he did doing event planning. So don't underestimate the power of all the things you have done. Just articulate it in a way that it ties to the job that you are looking for. That's very key.
That's exactly, like I improved performance by 200%. I generated extra revenue. I created a brand new customer engagement strategy that brought 15 new types of customers to the door. Tell me what you've done to move the needle. I really don't care about your day-to-day unless it's completely relevant to the job. I care about what you've done to accelerate. I was competitively selected out of 20 of my peers to represent the store. Those are the things that we care about.
So, what would you say would be the first step in starting a career in coding? What's the first, if I wanted to start a career in coding, what is the first class I would take?
Oh, first class?
Just Michael? I don't know.
I would say
the first step to get into coding?
I would say bare minimum, if you do not have a GitHub repository, you need to do that like yesterday. I don't care if it's just your classroom stuff or things that you've worked on with friends, having that GitHub repository, at least for me. So just a little bit of my background. I'm a full stack developer that has gone into a management role. And so when I look at code, I can tell with relative certainty how well you code and how long you've been doing it. And primarily, even more so, if you can do code at my organization. And so if I don't have that, I'll often ask you for code samples, but if you have that out publicly, that is square one. I always love to read code just to see other people's ideas of how they solved problems. I even have a GitHub repository. You're more than welcome to search for me. I'll admit that most of my commits are to our private repository, so I don't have a lot of code that's updated on a regular basis. But I've updated a few in the last couple months or so. But yeah, I would, especially if you're new to coding, there are a number of online courses that you can take that are 100% free. Free Code Camp is one of them. It'll walk you through how to develop a website from the ground up. How do you code HTML? How do you do CSS? How do you do JavaScript? All that stuff is packaged 100% for free. And you can put that all into a GitHub repository and have people look at it.
Can I add a few things? So for coding, I think if you want to start, if you don't have a background in coding, the language that is currently extremely high demand in the market is Python. If you want to write it down, Python, right? It is not very complex. Even kids can learn Python. There are boot camps for 12-year-olds where they teach Python. My son is a 12-year-old, he knows how to write Python. So it is not that complex. So anybody can do it. So that is one, and that is, combine that with if you had Security Plus and some ethical hacking, let's say you do Metasploit and Kali Linux and something, and if you knew Python, I'm telling you, you're marketable right away, right? Because that combination, another thing would be like some scripting, like JavaScript. And JavaScript can be learned literally in a week with all the open source tools. There is a website called W3 Schools, if you want to check that out. They teach you HTML, SQL, cascading style sheets, JavaScript. There is also online videos like udemy.com where you can buy a video for $10 and it will give you a lifetime access. And that's the first step, right? And then if you want to get into Java and C++, then you will need professional help because then you're getting into the very deep down. So for that you need to look at some professional training provider who can coach you. But starting with Python or JavaScript is an excellent start.
Those are some great resources. Thank you. This is a question. I'm an IT professional, but I have no experience in the U.S. If I were to apply to your organization, would you hire me? That could go to all of you.
Only if your resume is relevant.
Right.
If your resume is relevant, sure. But what are you doing with your resume? So by virtue of having experience, it doesn't mean that you're applicable to this organization. So tailor your resume, make sure that those things that we've all just talked about are popping out really strongly, and you tell a story.
And I would say, add everything you have learned on the training institute also. Like a lot of things I tell people is, don't worry about if you don't have a job, but you sat in a classroom, you went through 40 hours of training on one course. Put all the keywords, all the tools that you learned, all the concepts that you learned, just say, don't say it's an experience, but here are the things I know. When somebody is looking at your resume, they look at the keywords, immediately you get picked up, you get an opportunity, now the ball is in your court to be able to prove that you are capable, right? So don't let the lack of experience hinder you. If you have a lot of certs, I think Michael mentioned about that, right? So a bunch of certifications will overcome the lack of experience. So you can easily get in the job, at least an entry level job.
Well, one of the other things that I would add, I imagine that there are a few people in here that are actively searching, and most people think of applying for a job the exact opposite way that a company looks for candidates. I get the sense that Molly has felt this pain, but for most companies, they're going to look first internally because it's a lot easier to promote somebody. It's a lot cheaper because they already know the corporate culture. Than it is for us to do external search. The second method is typically networking. If I have a friend that knows somebody that can fill my position and I've talked with that friend and I trust that friend, I'm more likely to at least pick up the phone and call that person. It may not ultimately work out, but I rather would call somebody that knows somebody than to hire a complete stranger. And then the third and last thing, which is often the most expensive for a company, is to then put a job description out and to hire recruiters. This is the most expensive. So most people, especially in your position, are often the exact opposite. You're like, hey, I want to go to Indeed.com and just do a bunch of searches. You got to realize that by the time that job description is on that site, they've already gone through the first 3 layers and they're probably already still doing it. And so you're already at a disadvantage. You can't do anything about the first part, which is being at the company, but you can definitely network. And I cannot recommend that enough. That if you're just going to a meetup, I think one of the presenters talked about meetup.com. It's a great way to network. I go to several meetups to look for candidates. And I can tell you that me personally. I do that because I want to see who this person is. Can I interact with them? And often all of these, all the meetups that I go to are purely code-based. And so I want to see how they code, if they would meet the minimum requirements. So it's one of the places that I love.
Well, one of the things that I think is important, what Michael mentioned before, is the description of what you do. What you did in your home country is going to help us to pretty much see if you are a candidate or not. Because in the IT industry, especially right now, that the internet is pretty much combining everything together. I mean, if I'm looking for a security expert that works on firewalls, I don't care if he did it in Asia or in Europe or South America. I mean, it's a firewall, and it will give me the expertise here or elsewhere. If you also do programming in your home, you can explain, as Michael was referring, very in detail of what you did and show us. I mean, if the experience is in the U.S. or not, but you can do the job here, I mean, that's what we're looking for.
Let me go ahead and add to that. Talent trumps locality.
Yes.
We only care if you are the best and the brightest. I don't care where you're from. It doesn't matter. And I don't care how many years of experience you've had in the United States. If you understand how we work and you can hit the ground running faster than the guy down the street who grew up down the street, you are going to get the job every single time. Not 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10. But you have to be able to prove that.
So that's following up on that, actually, we have a question. Do most IT companies require some sort of assessment before hiring to sort of test your skills?
Yeah, it depends on what you're going into. So if we're going to hire you for a black hat hacker, we're absolutely going to have you run, we're going to weed you out. We're going to have you, if you are business requirements or a strategist, as I am, run through business cases. So here's a problem, how would you solve it? Walk me through it, and it better be very good when you say it. So there's going to be tests at different levels of jobs. Not all jobs are going to have some kind of use case or test case. We call them case studies. But sometimes, particularly our highly technical opportunities, will require that exam.
Right, and the job interviews are definitely changing. What I have seen is it used to be like when the economy was good, right? When there were a lot of jobs available and there was not enough people, that would be a quick one interview and you would get the job. Now they are very selective. Yes, you do get selected, they pay you a lot of money, but there is a panel of different people that they are testing you from different angles. Are you a team player? Do you have technical skills? Sometimes they will even get you a marker and make you go to the whiteboard and say, oh, you took CCNA, show me a simple scenario, how would you subnet IP address for this scenario where there are 25 users here in one location and another. I mean, they'll give you a little scenario. Scenario is very important. Even the exams that are coming up now, if you look at Security Plus and any of this, they are introducing performance-based questions and scenario-based questions. So pay attention that you are not only learning and memorizing the material, but how to apply it. Very, very important. Whether if you have done it in the exams, you can easily translate that in the interview. And that confidence will show in your when you are interviewing, and immediately they won't like try to give you a hard time. They see that you are confident. I think you'll cruise through it very quickly.
That's actually the only way we test is through those case studies. It's only through application. It's not like how many lines of code is in an X. I don't care.
Alright. So I have a couple questions that are similar, so I'm just going to kind of make it into one. Some people with master's degrees, and then some people with a background like graphic design or SharePoint in other countries came to the USA and have struggled to find a job for a couple of years. So what would you recommend for them to get into in order to get a professional job?
Well, I think I'm probably gonna probably say something a little bit controversial. If it's been several years for you to find a job and you've gone on several interviews, it's probably you. There's probably something that you're doing. I would try my best to get with somebody who's a friend of yours and do a mock interview with you. Because odds are that if you've waited years or it's been years for you to search, then there's probably something that you're doing, there's something that you're saying, or something along those lines where you are, where you're not being able to tell the story. Now, that's only if you've done the interview. So if you've gone on several interviews, that's the case. If you're not getting the interview or you're not getting a phone call, my guess is that there's something wrong with your resume. It's probably the standard, you can't, that there isn't anything in the resume that tells me as a manager, that tells me as a hiring person, why I should spend any additional time for you. So I'm not sure if this is, I imagine that this is the case for Molly. I work on a very highly technical team, so I do technical things. Hiring and managing people is probably about 10% of my time. So when I'm searching and actively searching, I don't have a ton of time to read through with a fine-tooth comb every resume as much as you guys may hope that I do. But I think for me, when I'm hiring somebody and I see a resume that isn't up to par, my reaction is not that this person's worked hard, this is the best that they can do. My reaction is they didn't spend a lot of time on this. And you may have spent 16 hours or entire work week perfecting that resume, but if it doesn't have the keywords or if it looks very sloppily put together, especially within the first 20 seconds, I'm just going to say, you know what, I've got other resumes that I need to look at, and I need to put this person off because, like I said, I only have a certain part of my time where I can actually do that.
So I've got a couple thoughts on that. You never get a second chance to make a first impression, and your resume is your first impression. It is your calling card. It is your brand, because I don't get a chance to meet everybody. And I will look at a resume for less than 30 seconds before deleting it and not thinking about it. I won't forward it. It's done. And everybody else will too. So the good news is there are amazing resources for you now. Upwardly Global, you heard Sarah Olson say they give you a personal coach and they work with you on those mock interviews, on those resumes. Right here, these wonderful people in your Alexandria Workforce Development Center will work with you for free, and they are amazing. So take advantage of the resources here. If you are a graphic designer and you are working at the visualization layer, then I would say put yourself up a Foursquare website and put your resume on it in terms of your work and make it your portfolio. Show me, instead of just tell me what you can do, and show me that you understand the user experience, that you understand beautiful design, and that you can make that happen and not just talk about it on paper. And so you've got something that you can embed as a link in your resume. But I would agree with Michael. If you've been trying for years in a certain field and it's not working, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing and hoping for a different outcome. So change your tactic and just be more, I would put more thought into what you can do to show your skills, potentially refine your skills, and then use the resources we've got here.
Right. If I can add to that, like one of the things along with a strong resume today is a very strong LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
I cannot emphasize enough on that. I mean, recruiters are first looking at your LinkedIn profile before they even try to give you a call for the interview. And if you have a bad LinkedIn profile, you have no LinkedIn profile, you have bad pictures on it, you have incomplete profile, then you lose that chance right there. I don't care how good this is. Also, they are looking online. Are you active in some communities? Are you writing blogs? Are you speaking somewhere? Like if you just go and search my name on Google, you'll see like blogs, you'll see papers, you'll see publications, you'll see events. I mean, nobody really cares about my resume once they just look at first 6 events, links, and they know exactly what I do, and then of course they will glance through it. But social media is huge now. I mean, especially for professional jobs, LinkedIn is the place. I mean, I don't care about Facebook, I don't care whether you tweet, all right, but it's the LinkedIn is a must.
Well, we do care about Facebook and tweeting, so be very careful about what you do. So that is important. I will also say that they won't go to look at the LinkedIn and the other things unless they pass the resume sniff test first.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about profiles that don't have a picture?
Won't do it. Sorry. Put your picture on it.
Good to know. That's very
Well, I haven't seen, I've maybe seen one or two LinkedIn profiles where they have a phenomenal LinkedIn like text, but no picture. I've only seen it like maybe once or twice, and it's only because I knew the person, like she's been stalked before, and so she didn't want to put her picture with her LinkedIn profile. So
I'd say that's legit. That's legit, absolutely. What we're looking at when we're looking at your picture is whether or not you're a business savvy. Did you put a silly picture of you doing something? Is it out of focus? Did you put Karen? Why care what you dress like when you come up to a resume? Are you dressed culturally appropriately? And in other words, if we are a suit firm, then you have a suit on. So do you understand it, and are you reflecting those patterns? So when I look at your picture, I need to understand that you are put together, you're professional, that you would have an executive presence, and that matters. All right, so I understand if you have a phenomenal LinkedIn write-up and there are other things to substantiate that, a blog, other works of art, then that is a complete and full picture, and that's fine.
Right.
That's fine.
Like I said, it's the exception, not the rule. So.
I can answer that. Personally, I came to US as an F1. I went through CPT, OPT, all of that. Yes, it's all possible. Currently, with the regulations the way they are getting tougher to get a job. But if you have F1, there is a lot of consulting companies out there who will actually take you. You know, you get, once you're on F1, if you graduate, you get something called OPT, which is optional practical training, right? So all the good schools that are accredited will give you that opportunity, especially from when you, like, let's say George Mason, any university that is accredited. You get that 1 year first with no need for any H1 visa or anything. Then you get another 17 months extension. So you get up to 3 years where you don't even have to worry about the visa. Within that 3 years, you have to have the employer file for your H1, and the H1 is valid for 6 years, 3 plus 3. So main thing is, again, if your resume is strong, you have the skills, you have all the right things, that's exactly where you can make a difference. Otherwise, if your resume is terrible, you don't have certifications, you don't have experience, then F1 is a very bad situation, right? Because then people will say, what's the reason for me to sponsor? Why should I hire you? What am I getting here?
I will add to that look for internship opportunities, because Eagle Tech have a partnership with a couple of universities in the area, and we receive interns, and when we see value in an intern, that is what you're saying. We say, well, yeah, let's see how can we sponsor this person, because you can see the person's willingness to learn, easy to work with, those capacities that you can only see when you're working with the person. Also, the technical capacities as well. So I would encourage to look for internship opportunities in companies.
Right, and some employers actually like F1. Do you know why F1 and H1? Because these employees are more loyal. They won't jump ship. Because when they are processing your paperwork, you cannot just jump ship and go to, because just somebody is paying you more money. So actually there are some companies who would rather prefer F1 and H1s because they know there is a stickiness here. With that employee, they will be around for a long time. So actually it's at your advantage versus somebody who's US citizen can easily move around, right? So those are things that people don't tell you, but it's actually facts that I know.
So piggybacking off that, I have a lot of clients, and everyone here is foreign, and not maybe a US citizen, when so many jobs require an IT clearance and to be an active US citizen. Do you have any thoughts on that, or any insight how they can work around that?
Absolutely. I get so many clients who have a mind block, like, look, I am in this area, I don't have clearance, so I'm not even trained, I'm not going to even go through cybersecurity because that's a dead end. Completely wrong. Completely wrong. Clearance is only a word they need, that's only the DoD community. Okay, now if you're working for, let's say, a Capital One bank in McLean, they have nothing to do with clearance. They hire H1s all the time. They have security problems, they have big data problems, they do Hadoop, they do Java. There is such a big team I know over there that they put H1s on in McLean, right? I mean, they have a cybersecurity group. So a lot of people have that mind block. Now, if you are a US citizen and you have solid credentials, then actually if you work for a company that will sponsor your clearance, excellent. I will lead you that way, because not only you will have a job security, but you will end up getting a huge premium, because somebody with cyber certs, experience, US citizenship and clearance, it's a very rare find, especially top secret. So, but there is opportunity for non-citizens as well.
As a social services organization who provides employment services, how should we discuss client concerns about bias regarding age and race specific to photos on LinkedIn?
So the idea is that your resume shouldn't have anything on it that's visual and identifying, right? So no pictures there. If they're going to LinkedIn, they're already interested, or they wouldn't waste their time. It would have been one of those 30 seconds, one and done. You also should pick a company, and the global demand for talent is such that most companies are on board with this, that has a culture where talent trumps age, talent trumps race, talent trumps. You wouldn't want to work for a company that doesn't have that. And companies who have those biases, who really trump themselves by not letting their recruiters pick the best, they're not going to win. They're not succeeding in the global race for talent. Human capital is our #1 resource. It is talent. And so it does not matter what your country or your creed or your age is. If you are good and you have relevant skills, that is the only thing that we care about. The LinkedIn picture is a function of, again, do you understand the professional norms? Does it look like you've put the time and the investment in? Did you care enough to take a good picture, and were you thoughtful enough about what that picture says about you? So you're not raising a solo cup at a barbecue, smiling at the camera in a fuzzy picture with your arm around somebody. That's not a good LinkedIn picture.
Do you have any occupations or pathways in the IT industry or organization that best suits the specific population?
So from my end, I would say what I have seen success in the last 3 years with the people I train is there is a huge pent-up demand for cyber analysts. I cannot emphasize enough, right? I mean, there is so many openings, and we have a serious shortage. And what is happening is people who may not have direct experience may not get in a cybersecurity job, but what I have seen success is, let's say I got somebody trained with Security Plus, CCNA, ITIL, and Cloud Plus, like these 3 or 4 combinations. They will start in a help desk. That's a great launch pad for you to, don't worry about, even if your money is not what you expected, I would take that job, learn on the job, learn troubleshooting, analytical skills, and see how quickly, if you have the cyber certs, you will transition in less than a year. I have seen people move from help desk out to the cyber analyst jobs, and they literally have a $20,000 to $30,000 increment in their salary. I mean, I'm seeing this. When people are reporting those numbers, I actually get to witness. So there is a lot of different openings out there on a cybersecurity, but analyst being the highest one that I can think of.
All right, this is a quite specific question, but I have a bachelor's degree in computer science, 15 years of experience with IT in my country, but I don't know where to start here in the US. Can you give me a start?
So I would say from my end, I would say first starts with a resume. That 15 years that you have you articulated it in a way that clearly shows what you want to do in US, even though you don't have experience here? And do you have any of the current skills? Are those 15 years of skills relevant to the market today? That's very important. Now, if you have something in mainframe, yeah, there are some mainframe and COBOL jobs here, but that's not like the high demand. But if you had something in AWS and Splunk, as Molly pointed out, I don't care where you have those skills. If you can articulate that, you are in the job right away.
Do you have any suggestions about what an IT resume should look like? I know you spoke a little bit about describing exactly what you should do, but we're seeing different resume formats now in skill source centers that have color and have, your Twitter and LinkedIn and email. Is that what you're looking for? Like a different format in the resume, or?
So the resume has to tell the story, and whether or not you are, over here on the design thinking space, then I'm going to want to see some of your design, and so that's appropriate for the context there. If I'm looking at more of a cybersecurity person, I'm probably not going to see any of your design on your resume, and so it has to be contextualized. And I think a good resume is something that quickly gets at the heart of your value add and your brand. If in the first 30 seconds I don't understand your value add and what your brand is, who you are and what value you are to me as a company, and what you can bring, I'm not going to spend any more time on it.
I would say probably the biggest thing that I'm looking for is the skill that you have and what technology you use. So like the example that I gave, you know, if you've optimized a database, what database was it? How did you optimize it? Did you index? Did you optimize table structures? Did you do more foreign keys, primary keys? So having that information there is really relevant to me. So I think it also depends on how the company in particular does their hiring. Is it a recruiter doing it, or is it someone like me who's technical and can read a resume like that and know what it is that you're saying? I'm personally of the opinion that if you write a technical resume and give it to a recruiter, they should be able to, at some level, translate that to their client. So I've worked with several recruiters and done my own recruiting myself, and I can tell you that's true for me. I don't know if that's true for the rest of these people here, because if you don't have that information, and the recruiter, and especially if it's just a recruiter, the recruiter doesn't have a lot of the technical expertise necessary to translate what it is that you've written and then give it to someone like me, and I'm going to be like, okay, this doesn't help me. You know, all they wrote is that they built a web page. You know, they don't tell me what server they did on. Apache versus IIS, two completely different technologies. They do the same thing, but I want to know which one you use, because one is more relevant to me than the other. And that's Apache. I personally am an Apache person. But if you use IIS, that's okay too. But I want to understand that. I want you to tell me that that's the technology that you use. And I can't tell you the number of resumes that I've seen where you tell me that you have the skill, but there isn't that technical component, or the other way around, that they tell me the technical component, but they didn't tell me what they did with it.
Let me add on to that. So when you submit your resume into that, you know, faceless beast of a machine where it's just like upload resume, more than half of the time a human's not going to see it. They're looking for keywords. It's just a bot that's scrubbing, and it's only going to rack and stack and prioritize those that return the keywords that someone said was relevant. So getting technically crisp is very helpful to get actually a human to then look at your resume, and then they'll have to read the story that you'll be telling them.
Yeah, I also think that if you write a paragraph about the job that you're applying to, for example, if we're looking for voice over IP engineers, if you work with Cisco Technologies or with DGUN or whatever voice over IP, and you explain it like Michael was saying, that is good. But even if you don't have voice over IP experience, but you're applying for that job, and you're a network engineer, and you can explain how being a network engineer will help you to be a voice over IP engineer as well, that tells me that you actually thought about this job and that you are being specific about it, and you're not those people that have bots as well, because we know that you guys also do that. And when we post a job, automatically you're going to shoot a generic resume. I can see a generic resume and I just reject it because you're not applying for this job, you're applying for any job. And I think it's important that in the resume reflects that you're applying for that specific job, because that is the one that we care about.
What do you think are the strengths and challenges skilled immigrants face in your industry?
I would say culture. It's probably the biggest one. I think one of the other panelists brought this up. I would say that skill is very important to me, but also the cultural fit. I work with a Muslim. She's not an immigrant anymore. I think she naturalized a couple of years ago. But for me, when she applied for the process, I was completely blind to her faith, her nationality. I actually didn't even care. I just cared, can you do the job? But what ended up occurring as she continued to work for me is that because of her faith and because of a lot of dietary restrictions, I do a quarterly lunch with all my employees and just sit down with them and tell them it's a very casual time. And because of the dietary restrictions that she had, we couldn't go to the places that we used to. But that's okay, because I have dietary restrictions too, but have nothing to do with my faith. I tend to eat gluten-free, organic stuff, pretty granola. So adding that in actually wasn't that big of a deal, but I just needed to be let know. And so what was interesting though, is that she didn't really bring that up in the several quarters that we would have this lunch. So she would prefer either to eat on her own or not eat at all, which in my mind was like, oh my goodness, this should not be. So I actually ended up talking with her, and that's when a lot of this got fussed out. And so I know managers that are on the other side where they're like, they don't want anything to do with that, but I want to be inclusive. I want people to feel welcome on my team, because that's how everybody works well together. Because if you're going to be, lunch and food and all this stuff is really, believe it or not, a great icebreaker, and it makes people feel more relaxed when they do that. And so I didn't want her to feel excluded, and I didn't want other people on my team to feel like she's not part of the team. And so as a manager, I took it upon myself to make sure that I could accommodate that. And so, but it does require that two-way street. If she would have told me, I would have been more than happy to make that accommodation.
So in terms of strengths for us, we typically see that your immigrants or your newcomers who are applying they have a hunger that is so obvious, they have a passion, they have a vim and an energy that they are just desirous of making something new and beautiful here, and that is absolutely a characteristic that we value deeply. And at the end of the day, talent trumps everything, but those are the things that we tend to see when we are looking at an immigrant versus someone who's been here for their entire life. With respect to challenges, it comes down to culture, which is translated in communication and expectations in terms of norms. And we are looking for culturally savvy business people who can operate on a global scale, because a lot of our teams, I have meetings, some of my team members are in the back here, at 10:30 at night to meet with my engineers in Pune, India, or 5 a.m. to have a call on the other side of the globe. And so understanding how to work not just with the American system, but more and more, particularly in IT, you'll be working with globally integrated teams, and being able to have a cultural fluency that cuts across not just America, but other vectors is so essential.
I think in this area, Washington, D.C., is a great area for immigrants in the IT world. I mean, we have international organizations, we have the IDB, we have the UN, we have embassies everywhere. So it is important also to take that into account and to understand the different cultures when you support people from other countries is great. I will also agree that loyalty it is when we hire immigrants, especially when it's the first time that they get a technical job. I mean, the loyalty is very high, and that is, we in Eagletech value loyalty a lot. Also that people that we hire, they don't feel entitled. They come here, they seek an opportunity, and just like you said, the hunger is there, and that is the strength. I would say one of the challenges for us, it will be the language, because as we as a company interact with customers a lot, and our engineers have to do that, sometimes people that struggle communicating in English could be a barrier. So I would also strongly suggest that we have to work in improving our English in terms of not get rid of the accent, but making sure that people understand when you are talking to them, especially if you have to talk to managers and that they don't feel frustrated because they cannot communicate with you. I think that is our challenge as immigrants. I mean, I experienced it when I came here in '98. I didn't speak any English, and I mean the frustrations that I had were tremendous. So I took the task upon myself to improve my English and to make sure that people understand what I'm saying and that I understood them.
Yep, I can add to that actually, because I currently hired somebody who's from Ethiopia. She's on the job training. Wonderful person, very technically talented, but exactly what Ed mentioned, language is a problem, right? Communication is a problem. So I constantly encourage her. In fact, we reached out to the case manager, said she needs some remedial help with learning English, and we are trying to find the classes for her. But other than that, I mean, she's such a hardworking person. She comes on time. She actually puts other employees sometimes to shame because they have been around, and sometimes they are like, hey, we should learn something from her. I mean, punctuality, sincerity, hard work, going above and beyond. So those are all the strengths, right? The other challenge I would say, in addition to the communication barrier, is also the lack of resources. Sometimes they feel lost, right? I came to US first and I was like, I don't know where I am, I don't see where my friends are. So what we do to alleviate that is if I see a person from Ethiopia, I say, hey, let me connect you to some of my other Ethiopian students who actually graduated from here, they got placed. Why don't you talk to them, see how they did it? And once they are in that group, they feel very confident, like if other people have done it, I can do it too. They just need to see some examples and they start believing.
Just a few minutes, so we're going to wrap it up. I want to say thank you to everyone on the panel for sure. It's been really good information. There were some specific agency questions for Accenture and intellectual point, but I didn't read aloud because it was very specific. So maybe during networking, people can ask some of that. It was just everyone. But that's really it. I really appreciate everyone. And Warren's just going to close it up. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. If someone wanted to send you an email about today and follow up with anything, is that okay? Do you have absolutely like the contact information can be shared? Okay, excellent, great.
Insofar as folks know, I am not HR. But I'm happy to tell you about Accenture.
I just wanted to make a final note. One of the things that I find really interesting and really cool is that actually a lot of the questions that you guys are asking are questions that I get from people who are citizens, who have been here, who grew up here. Like, how do I break into an industry? How do I get more experience in X? How do I get my resume to look Y? And I think that's a really, really cool thing. And so what you guys are struggling with, believe it or not, is actually what a lot of people struggle with. Is how do I do better? How do I get to the next step? And that is, and the fact that you guys are here, the fact that you guys are willing to self-improve, I think is a powerful statement, regardless of whether you're an immigrant or not. And so I commend you guys for taking it upon yourself to come here.
Very good. Let's give our panelists a hand. They left their organization to come here to impart to you truths about how you can better yourself as it relates to gaining employment. So again, thank you so much for taking the time out to come and share. It's not always easy to get them to come out, but when they can and represent in this manner, it's an opportunity you truly want to take advantage of. So let's give them a hand one more time.